So if you had this problem, this thing tried to leave me stranded out in the middle of the sand dunes this last weekend, and I'm going to show you what I had with me so I can get it started and get home. So last weekend I spent Friday night out at the dunes, and I spent all day Saturday out at the dunes. They had a bunch of Easter stuff going on for the kids. They had some rides going on, so we decided to go out there and spend the day out there. And right at the end of the day, this thing started acting up. It was running great, other than it just didn't want to start. Twice, it went ahead and finally started. The last time, 10:30, it's flat dark out. I'm ready to go home. Doesn't want to start at all. So I have one little trick on how I got this thing started, and I'm going to show you what that is. So before we get to that little trick, we're going to go through a couple diagnostic things to check before we get there, because you may not have the same problem I have. So here's a few things that we could check first. So another thing you could check is your safety neutral switch, or I think it's a gear range selector switch that's down on the side of the transmission. If it won't start in park, sometimes you could put it in neutral, and if it starts in neutral, you'll know that thing's bad. And on these XJs, I know you could tear them apart, clean the contacts in them, throw a little dielectric grease and put them back together, and they'll start working again. But in this case, that's not my problem. So another thing to check is your fuses. I'm not actually sure at the moment which one of these fuses. None of them say they're for the starter, but I'm pretty sure there's probably a fuse for the starter. And I do know that there's other vehicles with fuses for the starter. So it'd be a good idea to run through all these big fuses and make sure that all the fuses are good. So another thing that'd be quick and easy to look at is you'd want to look at your voltage gauge over here and see about where that's at. It's in the red most likely because the engine's not started and it's not running. But it looks like I still have, I would say that first black mark is 12 volts, and I'm just below that mark. I've been turning the key on and off, and I've cranked it a few times without starting it, so it might have dropped down a little bit. But if that thing's all the way down, for sure, you probably have a battery problem. Another thing is just turning it on, and you can see your check engine lights are coming on. I can hear the fuel pump is turning on, so I have some kind of power, so that's good. And the one thing that I didn't have on me, but it's always a good thing to carry, is some kind of a jump pack, especially if you're by yourself. This one here's the one I have. I only have one, and I have 3 vehicles, so depending on what vehicle I'm in, I got to remember to pull it out of one vehicle and put it in another one. But it's always good to have one of these in case your battery does go dead. So another thing you could do that a lot of people do is they'll find something to tap on the starter, which sometimes can get you going. The problem with that is, and anymore, most of the time you don't turn your starters in for cores. Myself, I've rebuilt both the starters on my Jeeps. You could buy brush kits. Normally that's what's wrong with them. It costs you 10, 15 bucks and you could have a starter going. It's pretty easy. So that's what I would do. But banging on the starters, you don't want to smack on the big starter portion of it where the motor is. There's a bunch of magnets in there, and you could bang on those magnets and break the magnets, and then the starter's no good, even for rebuilding. So you want to try to just tap on the solenoid end of it, and or tap on the very end of the starter to see if it will go. But sometimes that will get you going. All right, well, as you can see, there's many problems that could cause a no crank issue. We have the safety neutral switch, check it in park, check it in neutral. We could have a battery problem. You want to make sure, you know, all your voltage gauge is showing good, all your lights are turning on. Check for fuses. We could tap on the starter and see if that's possibly a problem. I'm not sure. If there's anything I missed or you guys got any ideas, throw them in the comments. But right now I'll show you what I ended up finding wrong with this Jeep and what I had with me to go ahead and get it started. So there's one more important thing that I'm going to tell you about what I'm going to show you here with the Jeep, and that is you always want to have your vehicle in park brake on, and you always want to try to work off the side of the engine, messing around with the starter and the electronics going to the starter. This thing could start up and take off and run over the top of you if you're not careful. So if you've never done it before and you're nervous about doing it, I wouldn't do it until you find somebody that knows what they're doing. But just always have it in park, the park brake on, and stay out of the way, because you don't want to have your rig run over the top of you. Alright, so here's what I did. And this works for any of the things that you have relays here. So inside this box we have a cooling fan, the fuel pump, the AC relay, auto shutdown, the starter, and then these last two ABS. I don't have ABS, so those aren't in there. What I ended up finding was this relay, which I had problems with not that long ago, and I can't remember. I don't think I replaced it. I think I pulled it apart and cleaned it up with emery cloth and put it back in. But what I ended up doing was I just took another relay, and this relay just sits in here because there's nothing in this spot here, so it should just fall right in there, and it just sits in there like that. I have the top stays on it, but all I did was I took it out and I stuck it into the relay spot where the starter goes, and then I have the key off, so it's not going to start. But standing off to the side and out of the way, you could just take, and the end of this has a little button, and you could just hit that and see if it cranks over. So you can do the same thing if you pull the fuel pump out, and I don't know if you can hear that, but the fuel pump's running. So this is another thing that you can do if you're up here trying to figure out what's wrong with the fuel pump, or if you're trying to do some diagnostic stuff and you need to crank it over, you can stand up here and kind of do that. And then the other thing you could do, and I marked these when I did all this, I don't know how well that will turn up, but you just take 30 to 87, 30 to 87, and you'll have the same thing. So these things I just kind of leave sitting in here. I just leave them sitting in here. This is the old relay. So something that I just thought about was, if you need a relay and you don't have this trick relay or the wire to jump and get something started, if you're having problems with any of the important stuff like your starter or your fuel pump, you could take something like, if you get into this box and you see this one, here's your AC, you just take that AC relay out and put it in where your starter relay is, and then you have a way to get your vehicle running, because this may not be important at the time. It's not important to me at all, because my AC pump is actually my air compressor, so, and it doesn't even need that relay to work. But that's another way to get this going if you need to and you don't have any of the stuff that I'm talking about today. I have to change that because I know it's not working, but I just leave everything sitting in here, put the cover back on it, and then if I get into a situation where, like I did this weekend, and it wouldn't start, and I'm fighting it, and I finally decided to jump out and check that relay, and there it was. I got her started up and got home. So now I just need to get a relay and fix it. Okay, so that was my trick for getting this thing started so I wasn't stranded out in the sand dunes all night. If you have any other tips or tricks, go ahead and throw them in the comments and hit that like button. Thanks for watching.